Hi everyone, it's Audrey again. I'm sure you're sick of hearing from me, but hopefully this is the last video. We are on website requirements part 4. So we left off at this slide, which is refine requirements. And basically this is about physically writing down the requirements that you need for the website. All it takes is just 1 or 2 lines per requirement. You need to say what the website should do, what the features functionality should be on each page. So for example, you want a gallery on the first page. This gallery should show a sequence of maybe 3, 6, 9 photos, or maybe 1 photo in a slideshow. So you need to be quite specific in how you want the site to look and how you want it to function, and what you want that user experience to be. So read through the case study again, read through the Joneses Photography case study, and make sure that you have considered everything, okay? Yes, there are red herrings in there. And yes, there are things that might throw you a bit and get you thinking a little bit outside of the box. But you do need to consider digital storytelling. The principles you've not yet covered with Peter, but what I really want you to try and show is the atmosphere, the ambiance, the history, the legend almost behind this particular business. And have you considered bringing that in either through media, different types of images, video, text, just even down to the font? How have you got that across? Don't just concentrate on text. Don't have pages and pages of text, because it doesn't read well, especially on mobile devices. So you need to consider different ways of getting that across. The requirements that you specify, they need to be specific, okay? Which means that if you're saying that you need a gallery, then how many photos in that gallery? What size should the photographs be? If you click on a photo, then what should happen? Should the photo enlarge? Should it link to another page? So what actually should happen? Measurable means how long is it going to take you and how much is it going to cost? So you need to put a measure on it. So if you're going to add in a gallery with a number of photos, that might take you just a couple of minutes to add in the gallery, but actually selecting the photos could take a long time. Resizing the photos could take even longer. So be very careful in how you measure that, and make sure that you give yourself a decent amount of time to be able to do anything. A very common problem is that people are too optimistic in how long it's going to take and underestimate the time in total that the project takes. Attainable is it possible? So if you've specified a feature, let's say you want a calendar, so that your potential wedding customers can book a date with you. Is that possible on the website builder that you have selected? And you need to consider that. If it's not attainable, then it goes in maybe as a lower requirement, okay? Remember, you are going to be constrained by the possibilities that are within the website builder. Realistic is, from a time perspective and from a cost perspective, is this actually realistic? Can you do it in time, in all essence? Because when you think about it, you're going to have probably between a week to 2 weeks to get this in. So you need to be very realistic in your own expectations. On time bound, yes, you do have a schedule, and yes, you do have a deadline, which for the moment has still not been fully agreed. So it's either going to be the 12th or the 19th, but we'll see how you're getting on Tuesday the 7th. So the requirements that are most useful will describe in detail what functions are available to on-site visitors and provide guidelines and designing interactions that will occur on site. Basically, what that means is that your list of requirements need to detail exactly what's going to happen on the site. Not only what the user can do, but how they're going to do it. And what will happen in cases where there might be an error. And how you're going to keep your user happy and make sure that your user has a good experience of your website. Okay, so very clear navigation, very clean pages, and so on. The acceptance criteria, we're finding the acceptance criteria. So this is what we refer to as your minimum viable product, your MVP. So what can you go live with? What can Jones's photographers go live with? What is their absolute minimum requirement? And remember that their business needs said that they wanted to develop a website because they wanted to see if there was a demand for abstract photography. So that needs to go in there somewhere. So what's the absolute minimum that you're going to accept? You need to state that at the outset. So for example, you would need a gallery, maybe you need wedding shots, maybe you need landscape shots, maybe you need abstract, maybe you want a profile of the people working in the company, you need to tell the digital story and so on. So you need to think of absolutely minimally what needs to be on this website. When you're developing your site and on Weebly you publish and then you go and you have a look and see what it looks like, you are almost unconsciously evaluating as you go because you're looking at the screens and you're thinking, is this doing what I thought it would do? Is my criteria still valid? Should more be added? Are the pages very empty? Is there something else that can showcase the business? Should some be taken away? Maybe the pages are too full, too busy. Maybe the design is a little bit all over the place. Another area that's very important for usability is the area of error scenarios. So one of the worst possible things on websites is when, for example, links don't work, email addresses don't work, the phone number is incorrect, the stock item is incorrect, where you think that you can buy something and then it ends up that they're not in stock, buttons don't work, etc. And when this happens to the user, and especially if they are not told that it's an error, it can frustrate them and they may not come back to the website. So you want to make sure that first of all, that there are no broken links, that the website functions as you intend it to function, that if you're linking to internal pages, that the correct pages are accessed, if you're linking to external pages, and the URLs are valid, and so on. But in the case where there may be errors, then you need to tell the user, oops, we're sorry, this doesn't exist. Let's bring you back to the homepage. So at least the user is validated and they're thinking that this is not working. And they don't get frustrated thinking that your website just does not work. Other technologies, the compatibility of multiple browsers is extremely important considering the vast array of browsers that are out there at the moment. So you need to make sure that the website builder is compatible. Weebly student version and Weebly full version is actually quite good, as is Wix, as is WordPress, so they all work quite well. Browser resolution, example fixed table sizes. This would really just come into it if you're using HTML code to draw something on a screen. Then you need to make sure that it fits the browser resolution. But just using the features and functionality in the website builders, you shouldn't really have this particular problem. Compatibility with multiple operating systems, example iOS, Android, Windows, Mac operating system. You just need to make sure that the published site will work on all of the operating systems. When you are doing up your requirements, you need to prioritize them. So not everything is going to be a high priority. And earlier I mentioned the MVP, which is the minimum viable product. And this process called Moscow allows you to identify the high priority items, medium priority, and low. So must, should, could, would, Moscow. Okay. So let's say one of your requirements is for the homepage and it is a gallery of photographs. Must that be there? And you may think, yes, we want to showcase the work. Maybe the second requirement on that page could be a membership sign up. Is that part of the case study? Is that something that was specified in the case study that was required? The answer is no. So that doesn't fall in under must. Should it be there? Perhaps, but it's not mentioned in the case study. Could you do it? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. And would I do it if it were possible? And yes, perhaps it's something that could be a low priority. So you would probably give something like a membership sign up a could or a would, which would be a lower priority to the other two. You need to review all of the requirements that you've listed, and we're going to do this in class anyway on Tuesday, on the basis of this criteria. And what it allows is a quick segmentation and prioritization of multiple requirements, because one of the problems when designing systems is that you think everything is important and everything has to go in straight away. But when you do proper analysis of it, especially if there's tight timelines, and there is for you guys, because it's about 2 weeks of a deadline, that you're not going to fit everything in that time, and that's absolutely acceptable for case study 1. And then when you begin to segment them a bit more, you'll find then that you might reprioritize some of the ones that you've recognized as medium. Maybe they become low, or maybe the low ones become medium. So it's an iterative process. You need to keep going back over that list. Identifying a user flow. The customer user experience is really important. Remember that it costs 6 times more to get a new customer than it does to maintain an existing one. So you don't want to lose customers because your website is a bad experience. You need to consider the user experience, and you need to build it with the user in mind. So Google Analytics or other analytics tool will show the user flow through a website. Now we're going to go through Google Analytics in a couple of weeks' time, and it's not overly complicated. It's actually straightforward enough to use. It's a bit daunting when you start to use it first, but once you get the hang of it, like everything, it just flows with the rest. Does the website give you value? So this is why we ask the question at the very start. Why do you want this website? What use is it for you? What's it going to do? What are your business needs? What's the core of your business? And will this give you value? So if you're, for example, with Jones's Photography, they need to find out, is there a market there for abstract photography? And if they can find that answer through analytics or through user reviews or feedback, then yes, of course, it's going to give them value, because it's going to tell them that yes, you should proceed with this or not. Is the site easy to use? Is it a pleasure to use? Very, very important. Websites win awards constantly. And how does it make the user feel? Are there any positive feelings? Does it make them feel good? Does it make them feel that that was easy? That's no problem. And you've got to consider different levels of users as well. For Jones's Photography, the customers will vary in age, they'll vary generation, they'll vary in gender, and you need to make them all feel good about how they use the site and how it looks and the aesthetics of it. If a user feels frustrated or annoyed, or they might be made to feel stupid because they can't figure out things, or maybe the website is breaking and they feel that the website is no use, then they're not going to come back. So you need to make sure that the feeling that's evoked within the user is a provocation, and that it will make them return again and again. So these questions will form a basis on whether the customer will return to the website. So our final slide here is, you need to ask and answer quite honestly, do you like the design of your website? Do your stakeholders like the design? I want you to ask your neighbour on Tuesday. I want you to peer review what you've done so far. Is navigation through the site easy? And is the site accessible to all? So can people of any generation, any age, any competence level with IT, can they all use it? I need you to look at the style guide for the website. So obviously this is the theme that you would have selected. And here's a link that you can look at in your own time. So if you are designing your own site from scratch, then these would be really, really important, so keeping images consistent, paragraphs, but the themes kind of set that up for you anyway. And ensure the design features satisfy a business need. Do not overlook the business needs in favor of design. So remember, with Jones's Photography, they want to showcase the work. They want to find out, is there an audience there for abstract photography? Don't forget about that in order to keep the site just looking good. Okay, so that finishes the presentation on website requirements, and I will see you guys on Tuesday Again, don't worry if you don't get to look at all of this before Tuesday. It's there for you for your own perusal in your own time. Bye.